Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something that almost every new immigrant struggles with: how to manage money and build a proper budget after landing in the United States. When you first arrive, everything feels different, not just the language or the culture, but the way people spend money, save money, and think about money. It can be confusing and sometimes overwhelming, especially if you're used to cash-based systems. And suddenly now everything is digital credit based and full of hidden charges. One of the biggest mistakes many immigrants make in the first few months is assuming their income will always be enough to handle expenses. But the cost of living in the US can be tricky because things might look cheap at first, but they add up fast. So before we talk about how to actually build a budget, let's understand the landscape. In the US, your fixed expenses will usually include rent, groceries, phone bills, transport, and health insurance. Sometimes utilities like water, electricity, and trash services are separate. Sometimes they are included, depending on where you live. Rent is usually the biggest expense, and it can eat up more than 40% of your income, especially in cities. Now, let's talk about credit cards. It's very common in the US to use credit cards, but as a new immigrant, you need to be very careful using them, because it's easy to swipe and delay the pain of spending. But if you don't pay the full balance each month, interest rates will kill your savings quickly. So the first step is awareness. You need to become extremely aware of your expenses from day one. Keep a small notebook or use a free mobile app like Mint or Spendee and write down every single dollar you spend. Even if it's $1 for a coffee, just track it. Once you start doing this, you will see patterns. Maybe you're spending $50 every week on takeout. Maybe your streaming subscriptions are too many. Maybe you are using Uber when public transport is available. Tracking will open your eyes, and this is your first budgeting weapon. Next, understand the idea of needs versus wants. In the US, it's easy to confuse the two because marketing is very powerful. Everything looks like a need, but many things are just habits or emotions. For example, do you really need the latest phone plan? Or are you okay with a prepaid SIM that costs less? Do you need to eat out 3 times a week? Or can you learn to cook at home? Budgeting is not about suffering, it's about becoming smarter and more independent. Now, let's build a basic budget structure for any immigrant family or individual. Step 1, write down your total monthly income after tax, not before tax, because your paycheck will come after deductions. So if your job pays you $3,000 a month after tax, that's your working figure. Step 2, list out your essential expenses: rent, groceries, phone bills, transport, insurance. These are your non-negotiables. Step 3, calculate how much is left. Now break this leftover into 3 parts: emergency, savings, everyday spending, and personal goals. This is called the 50-30-20 method, where 50% goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings. But honestly, for new immigrants, the realistic version is more like 70% needs, 15% wants, and 15% savings, because you're starting from scratch. Emergency savings should be your top priority. Aim to build at least $1,000 as fast as you can, and don't touch it unless it's a real emergency. Not shopping, not concerts, not upgrades. Real emergencies like hospital bills or job loss. Also, start building your credit score carefully. One small secure credit card bill paid fully every month is enough. No need to spend more than you can afford. A good credit score will help you later in getting apartments, loans, or even better jobs. And don't forget to understand taxes. In the US, many people forget that their income will be taxed at federal, state, and even local levels, depending on where they live. So what you see on the job offer isn't what you take home. Always calculate your post-tax earnings before budgeting. Now let's talk about psychological budgeting. This is where you learn how to stop impulse spending and peer pressure. In the US, social culture often includes dining out, buying gifts, travel during holidays, all of which cost money. And if you don't plan ahead, these small social expenses will break your budget. Learn to say no politely. Learn to host potluck dinners instead of eating out. And remember, just because someone else can afford something doesn't mean you have to match their lifestyle. If you compare your early immigrant journey to people who've lived here for years, you will always feel behind. Your journey is different, and your budget must reflect that. That's where part 1 ends. In part 2, we'll go deeper into strategies for cutting costs, smart shopping, and planning ahead without missing out on life. Welcome to part 2 of our series on budgeting as a new immigrant in the USA. Now that you understand the basics and have a structure, let's talk about how to spend smarter and save consistently. One of the first things you should learn is comparison shopping. In the US, there are always multiple options for the same product or service. Grocery stores like Walmart, Costco, Trader Joe's, and even local markets offer different prices. Learn which store is cheaper for what. For example, you may get bulk rice cheaper at an Asian market than at a mainstream grocery store. Also get a store membership card where it's free. They give discounts and digital coupons. Every dollar counts when you're building a foundation. Avoid convenience fees as much as possible. Avoid ATM withdrawals that charge fees. Avoid apps that add delivery charges when you can walk or pick up. Avoid buying water bottles when you can use a filter at home. One major leak in your budget will be food. If you eat out regularly, even just one meal a day can cost $10 to $15. Do the math, that's over $300 a month. Instead, cook in batches. Meal prep on weekends. Use rice, lentils, eggs, frozen vegetables, and basic spices. It's not glamorous, but it's healthy, affordable, and surprisingly satisfying. Use public transport where it's safe, and possible monthly passes save a lot more than Uber or Lyft. Also look into ride share or company-sponsored transport if available. Another big area to watch is subscriptions. Cancel anything you don't use. Streaming platforms, gym memberships, software, apps. These are monthly traps many people forget about, and they eat into your budget silently. Try a minimalist approach. Watch free content on YouTube. Exercise at home. Use free alternatives to premium tools. Now let's talk about unexpected expenses. These can be medical, legal, or even travel-related. If you don't prepare for them, they hit hard. Create a sinking fund, just a small savings category where you add a little money every month to prepare for things like car repair, new shoes, or replacing a phone when it dies. Always budget for birthdays, festivals, gifts, and renewals. These come every year, so plan ahead instead of swiping credit when it happens. If you're supporting family back home, include that in your budget. Clearly, don't just send randomly because it will ruin your own planning. Commit to a fixed monthly support that you can manage, and communicate clearly with your family about your limits. Now, if you're living with roommates or sharing a house, write everything down. Share the rent and bills fairly. Use apps like Splitwise or a whiteboard to keep things transparent. Money misunderstandings can hurt relationships even more than culture clashes. Let's now shift to the mindset of contentment. This is not talked about enough in budgeting. When you move to a new country, it's easy to feel pressure to catch up. You see people driving better cars, wearing better clothes, going on vacation, and you start to feel small. But real budgeting is about inner peace, not outer appearance. Once you train your mind to be satisfied with enough, you stop spending just to feel accepted, and that saves more money than any app ever can. Finally, celebrate your small wins. Every month you stick to your budget. Every $100 you save. Every time you cook at home instead of eating out. That success record. Share it with someone or just mark it in your notebook. This builds a positive money habit that lasts longer than any trick. In Part 3, we'll explore long-term budgeting strategies, building credit, investing slowly, and setting yourself up for future success. Welcome to the final part of our budgeting guide for new immigrants in the USA. So far, we've covered tracking expenses, cutting waste, saving smart, and staying emotionally balanced. Now let's move forward into the future, because budgeting isn't just about surviving, it's about building a secure and stable life. Start with your credit history. In the U.S., credit score is not just for loans. It affects apartment rentals, car leases, even some jobs. So use a credit card smartly. Start with a secured card. If needed, spend a little every month, like on groceries or gas, and pay it off in full. Never carry debt. If you want to build a good credit history, set up autopay to avoid missing payments. Next, open a savings account, preferably high-yield savings where you can store your emergency funds safely. Now look into retirement accounts like 401k or Roth IRA. Even if you can contribute only $50 a month, that's a great start, because time grows your money and most people delay it too long. Budgeting for retirement early is one of the best financial decisions you can make. If you're planning to send kids to school in the future, learn about education savings plans like 529 plans. If not, then still create separate envelopes or digital categories for long-term goals like buying a house, visiting family abroad, or starting a business. Your budget should reflect your dreams, not just your bills. Now let's talk about side income budgeting. This is when you start earning a little extra from part-time work or side hustles. Always separate this income. Don't mix it with your main salary. Use side income for one goal only: saving, investing, or building an asset. This keeps your mind focused and motivated, and you won't waste the money on temporary pleasures. Avoid lifestyle inflation. This means just because your income grows, you start spending more. It's a trap many fall into. They get a raise, and suddenly the rent increases, the car is fancier, the weekends are more expensive, and after 5 years, they're still broke. Stay grounded. Increase your savings rate when your income increases. That's real growth. Surround yourself with people who understand budgeting. If you live with people who always want to spend, party, or show off, it's hard to stay on track. Try to connect with immigrants or local groups who are focused on financial discipline. Join Facebook groups or forums where people share budgeting tips, free tools, or money-saving hacks. Keep learning, read books, watch YouTube channels, follow finance blogs that speak your language. Money is not just math, it's mindset. Once you develop a money mindset that values simplicity, freedom, and planning, budgeting becomes second nature. Most importantly, forgive yourself for mistakes. Budgeting is a skill, not a rulebook. You will overspend, you will mess up 1 month or 2. Don't quit, just adjust and keep going. What matters is the direction, not the speed. Even if it takes a year to feel confident, you're still ahead of where you started. So that's our complete guide to budgeting as a new immigrant in the USA. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe, share with someone who just arrived, and leave a comment below about which part helped you the most. Your journey is just beginning, and every dollar you manage is a step toward your freedom. See you in the next video.